Now, on the Dream Ahead side, I don't want to miss that part of it too, is that it's not you're not purchasing units again. So what you're doing is you're making an investment. Now, it's always a good idea, always important to know that if you're making any investment decisions, if you can confer with or work with a financial planner or a financial advisor who is also looking at your whole picture and can give you advice on, you know, what works, what fits your goals and plans and even your budget. So doing a little bit of both is not a bad thing. But with the Dream Ahead plan, you'll look specifically at a variety of different portfolios. These are all accessible on the website, and you'll make some decision about what feels comfortable. Age-based portfolios are designed to self-adjust as your child is getting closer to college age. So it may be while they're really little, the investment strategy is a little bit more aggressive because there's so much time, right? And then as they're getting closer and closer and closer to college age, that strategy will now change to be a more conservative investment. So you're balancing that out. Now you can always change that, but if you choose an age-based one, it automatically self-adjusts. So it's kind of like, some people have called it like a set it and forget it kind of thing, but you never really want to forget it. You always want to make sure you're taking a look at how things are going. Now, risk-based types or fixed allocation type portfolios, they work differently than that. At the get-go, you're going to make some decisions on that investment strategy, mainly based on your risk tolerance. Like if you have a very low risk tolerance, you might choose a strategy that's very conservative. Now, it will stay the same until you change it. If you choose to change it, it doesn't have to change. And some people may do a combination of the two. So again, as a recap here, Get and Dream Ahead, prepaid type, traditional savings type, both have the same tax advantage, what you use the money for and where your students can use them. But the value of the account and how that grows are going to be very different, right? That's what makes them uniquely the different types that they are. Now, some frequently asked questions are, what do I do with my money if my kids get a scholarship? And first thing we say is, that's great news, because it's going to take all kinds of sources to help your student have dollars available so that they're borrowing less money. So if the student gets a scholarship, consider using that money for other things like room and board or books and supplies, holding it till the next year, or even if they plan on pursuing a master's or graduate program. So the longer you hold it, that's available later too for the student to use. You can even transfer it to another family member, or certainly you can refund an account, but we'll mention that one again in a moment. If your student says, and this may come up with you all too as teachers, you may hear a lot more than I think maybe even parents might hear about what kids are saying. And I think through this, you've heard me mention several times the word college. You know, but we're in a time where the term college is getting a new definition. It's not just a traditional four-year college experience. It's not just the UWs or the WSUs or the Gonzaga type of experiences. Community colleges, vocational colleges, apprenticeship colleges, certificated programs, all of these are different ways that students are getting education beyond high school that helps them get into the workplace. And then ultimately by being able to pay for that without borrowing money ensures that they're not overburdened with student loan debt. So if the kids say, I'm not going to college, the first thing we would suggest is to kind of wait it out. Let the kids have some time to think about what they want to do. Have that conversation with the kids. What are their interests? Because knowing that really then helps guide them to the type of training or education that they want to spend their time on and their money on. So you can wait it out, you can transfer it to another family member, and you most certainly can always refund your 529 plan. The main thing to remember about refunding a 529 account is that it's been growing tax-free, right? So the money you use to put into the account has already been taxed, but the earnings on it is not taxable. And it stays untaxable as long as it's used for qualified educational expenses at eligible educational institutions. So if you refund it, that earnings portion now becomes taxable at the account owner's rate. And then the IRS would also assess a 10% penalty fee on the earnings portion. Now, it would always be a good idea to make sure that whatever plan you have, if they also assess additional penalties and fees on it in a cancellation or refund policy. So not every program does that, not every plan does that, some do. So you'd want to make sure with your plan whether they do or don't. Now, we've talked about the other ones. Again, people don't have to stay living in the state of Washington. You can continue to put money in and withdraw it no matter where you live or where the student lives or even where they choose to pursue their education. The main thing to remember there is about the GET account. Specifically, remember that the GET account value keeps pace with tuition growth at the UW and WSU, not where the student is going to go or not where you're living at the time. And of course, anytime you have situations change in your family, you need to talk about options with your savings, or you need to look at changing the plan or even get refund estimates. It's always, most important thing is reaching out and talking to a plan representative so that they can look at your account more specifically. Now, getting started is quick and easy. I'm going to take a quick look at questions. I have questions about GET. Can I ask over the mic when appropriate? Yeah, I think when I'm almost done, it's like 2 seconds here, maybe 5, and then we'll open it up for some verbal Q&A. So getting started, and again, keep in mind, remember what I mentioned at the very beginning. Think about this in terms of yourself, but also in terms of like, you know, the best kind of resources for your community, for your families and things like that. So opening an account is easy for families. Even if they were going to be saving at a bank, they'd have to open an account. They'd have to complete an application to do that. So opening an account online at WA529.wa.gov is how they enroll. There are no enrollment fees for ever opening a GET or a DreamAhead account. So the goal is to get the accounts open and complete the enrollment form, get your account numbers, and begin saving. You know, and then letting your family members know. We have a great resource on our website, a gifting page that helps account owners, family members learn about how they can gift, the benefits of gifting, how they can do it, you know, quick and easy. And I actually facilitate a webinar specifically around gifting. So I'll give you the link to where that will be in just a few minutes. And then, of course, reaching out to us. You know, we're here to help families, you know, with questions and things, and to learn a little bit more and to, you know, kind of keep their savings going. So reaching out is always going to be a good idea. I'm going to pass over this one. You will get this in the slide deck, but this was just some obvious tips, ways to continue, you know, to keep the momentum going. That's always so important, you know, saving regularly, inviting your family to help, and thinking about different ways that you can also save that complements your 529 plan. So it's important to know that there's not just one way of saving. There was only one way to do it. That would be the thing everybody's doing. So there's a variety of ways that you can save, and none of them are going to be wrong. There'll just be some things that have better outcomes that you prefer, you know, or at different times, you know, depending on the age of your children, when you start saving, how much you can save. All of these are going to be really great resources, and you can pull those resources together and in combination. They aren't things that conflict with each other. They are things that complement each other. So if you don't have a 529 plan, it's actually one of the most favorable in terms of FAFSA or financial aid. Any money saved in a 529 plan actually gets more favorable treatment in terms of financial aid. So that's another part to keep in mind. When the parent owns the account, it's considered a parental asset and not income. Income when they're through the FAFSA form, when they're calculating income to determine need-based financial aid eligibility, they take much more of what you have available to make that determination. So when you have a 529 plan, they only calculate up to 5.64% of the account value to determine eligibility in terms of need-based financial aid for a student. Now, there have been some new rules that have passed, financial aid rules, that make it even more beneficial or more attractive for grandparents and even non-custodial parents who might own a 529 plan for a child or even a grandchild. Before this change came into effect, any grandparent owned 529 plan, that money to the student would be considered income. Now, that didn't mean like right away the student was, you know, it was they were in a detriment at that point. In fact, a lot of grandparents at that point, and that would be me included, would consider changing the ownership of the account right at about the time the student would need to use it. But now that these rules are changing, it's probably negligible or very limited in the impact that it's going to have. Now, I am not the financial aid expert either, and so what I'll say here is that this information in and of itself should never be the moment in time where you go, oh, I'm not going to save or I'm not going to save in a 529 plan because of that one financial aid rule. That is one small element of information in the big scope of things. And if you really think about it, I've had families say this to me too. Well, I'm not going to save because they won't get any financial aid. And you won't know that. I think you guys know that more than anybody. Parents don't necessarily know what their kids are going to qualify for or be eligible for later on. And if you don't save along the way, and if 60% of financial aid comes in the form of loans versus grants, if their student doesn't get enough grant money, if any at all, and the family didn't save, period, then what they do have is the opportunity to have loans and pay them back. So saving money along the way is going to be as important as applying for financial aid, because there are opportunities for grants and scholarships. There's opportunities to pay things directly without having to have loans, but it doesn't mean your kids won't have loans. The goal is that they won't have to have as much. You know, we don't want to see kids like graduating from college and then trying to start their lives and save for retirement and then just be overburdened with it. And that's kind of the goal here.